How do you go from the position where you're a busy investor, one-man band, running a small team, everything seems a little bit frantic, to a position where everybody knows exactly what role they're doing, they're fulfilling it much better than you would, and everyone on the team is playing to their strengths? In today's episode, what we're going to be looking at is the perfect profile. What you realise as a startup entrepreneur is initially you start to attract people into your business as you grow who share your vision, share your enthusiasm, like the same things as you, same character traits, laugh at your jokes, have a great time down the pub, etc., etc. Now that's fine and that's great, and to a degree, that's half of the fun of the Band of Brothers stage. But what we want to do is look above that and beyond that and start to understand that where in human nature we might think that other people are different or strange, and in a professional sense especially, maybe even a little bit weird about the way they make their decisions or the way they think or the way they speak or the way they're too fast, the way they're too slow, and stop looking at that as a weakness and an issue and start actually leveraging that to our advantage. So this is called the perfect profile, and what we're going to do here is use wealth dynamics to understand the 4 different energies, the 4 different profiles, the 4 different geniuses of wealth dynamics. And by the end of this episode, you'll understand who you need, where you need them, and why we're going to select them to give you the maximum value as we go through this. So when you've got this right, your business will run well, everything will step change, it will level up really quickly. If you don't use this, you're going to be frustrated, disappointed, annoyed, and people are going to be the bane of your life rather than the benefit. So going through the 4 profiles, so the easiest place to start is to understand that there's 4 different seasons in the cycle. So Property Entrepreneur runs from October, November, December as Q1. It runs in 4 seasons. So autumn, winter, spring, and summer. And that is the 12-month cycle of Property Entrepreneur. And it's also the 12-month cycle of the natural seasons. So if you think we're recording this at the minute in the heat of summer, and at the end of summer, all the growth for the year is done. In order for the natural world to slow down and to rebuild and to grow, the growth goes from the top of the trees with the leaves and all the green. They fall to the floor in the autumn, and then all of that energy and that latent reserve goes from the leaves into the ground, fertilizes the soil. Then the winter comes, freezes over, nothing happens. All the regeneration happens under the ground. And then spring comes, the green shoots come up, the seasons start to turn, and we get back into the part of the growth cycle where the seeds start to spring, and then we move into summer and the growth of the fields, the trees, the market, etc. It's exactly the same as our businesses. So what we're going to look at here is understanding how the seasons are similar to the perfect profiles and to the people, and understand that the 4 seasons, so spring, for those of you that are listening in audio, just imagine drawing a square in front of you, and you've got the 4 sides. You've got the top, the bottom, the left, and the right. We're going to start up at the top, and if you've ever seen the Wealth Dynamics square, the top corner, so if you draw that square, draw an X through the middle, the top triangle at the top of that square is going to be green, and this is all about spring. And then if we go around clockwise, we've got spring, which is green, we've got summer, which is red, we've got autumn, which is yellow, and we've got winter, which is blue. And this is the 4 seasons of the calendar cycle. It's also the 4 seasons of Property Entrepreneur, and it's the 4 seasons that we use in every single business that we build, we own, we buy, we sell. We take them through this cycle. In each of the seasons of the cycle, you'll have a different profile that will perform better. So in the spring, which is green at the top, this is going to be your dynamos. So your dynamos are, we'll go through these in a minute, but your dynamos are your spring energy. Spring, we move around to the next one, which is summer. And summer is all about blaze energy. So this is your blaze profiles. Autumn, which is down the bottom, which is yellow, is going to be tempo. And then winter, which is going to be to the final quarter, which is blue, is steels. So to understand what these people sort of do and who they are, like green is a dynamo like me. So very high frequency, head in the clouds, see the future, million miles an hour, naturally optimistic, driving people forward, leading the business, great at getting things going. Summer is then going to be your blazers, who are all about connection. They're about people. They're extroverts. They get their energy from being out there, talking, magnifying things, scaling the business up. Tempos are more ear to the ground, so they're more sensory. If you imagine yellow, autumn, that sort of autumnal, slowing down, relaxing, cruise control energy, and who are sort of ear to the ground, very connected, very sensory, very tempo. And then winter, very consistent. And then winter, which is blue, which is your steels, are all about your detail and your legal legislation and compliance and data and fact and contracts. I'll take you through more of this as we go through, but this is how we start to build up the layers of the perfect profile. When you build a business, they go through the cycle as well. So you think about a tree, in order for it to keep growing, it goes through the cycles every year. Your business is the same. The economy is the same. Your relationships are the same. They all need to go through this natural 4-season cycle. And if you think about when your business is in a phase, there's 4 phases to the season. So spring is all about form. So if you think about form is creating something new. If you're in that formation stage as a business, you're in your spring phase. You're planting seeds, you're starting to see things happen, starting to make some money, and you're starting to figure out what works. You're forming the business. Once that's worked and you figured out which of those 100 seeds you planted actually grows, you then go and plant a whole field of them. And this is the blaze energy. This is the summer where you go from forming the business to growing it. And this is what we call the storm phase. Rapid growth, loads of clients, loads of interest, turning on the tap, water going everywhere. It's the storm phase. It's rapid growth. It's volatile. It's chaotic. It's growth before everything else. And it's like a storm. You're like being in a storm phase. After that, unfortunately, that's where most entrepreneurs end up staying. After that, you want to slow things down. And you've had that growth. You've had that full steam ahead, foot to the floor race season. You want to go from storm into norm. A norm is all about slow things down, put the car on cruise control, like let it relax, go into a tempo. And this is the normalization of it. Things start to slow down. We find a rhythm. We start to understand that there's benefits in things like quarterly plans, monthly plans, weekly plans, reviews, targets, KPIs, scorecards. And the business starts to find this level of normality where it's not storming anymore, it's norming, and it's slowing down. It's starting to find a rhythm. And then once it's got the rhythm, we go into the final stage, which is the winter phase, the steel phase, which is about perform. So you've got form, storm, norm, and then perform. And perform is all about attention to detail, screwing down the margins, running the budgets versus actuals, KPIs, SOPs, SCS management, PDPs. It's all this stuff that sounds corporate, but it's all about performance. And that's where the money's made, in that perform stage where you refine everything, get it running on rails, and then you complete the cycle. So your business will go through those cycles. When we start thinking about what the focus of these people are, so there's a focus at a period of time. So when you're starting a business, it's quite a dynamic, dynamo, creative space. When you're scaling it and it's all about growth and BDMs and sales targets and opening new offices and making sales, that's very blazy. So you think about, you've got the phases of the business to go through, and it's better to have the perfect profile lead them at that stage. So I'll start at the beginning. The blazers will take it through the championship season. The tempos will then calm it down and do delivery after. And then steels will run the back office and make sure all the bookkeeping's done, the credit control runs well, the profitability targets are met, the spending budgets are not exceeded, the KPIs, the ops, etc., etc., etc. When we think about the focus of each of these profiles, the dynamo really wants to be focusing on starting the business. So the dynamo is all about starting. The blazes are better to come in, not necessarily when it starts, they're better for scaling. So they're better at sales, taking things forward. Once you've got the sales coming in and you've got the growth happening, tempos are all about service. So balancing the books, keeping people happy, onboarding new clients, customer service, project management, project planning, delivery. They're all about the service element, the front of house to keep things moving. And then the steels are all about the stats. So anything to do with data, ops, KPIs, compliance, legislation, processes, operations, KPIs, etc. That's all about the steels. When we think about what roles these people might have for you, when you're looking for the perfect profile for each job, the easiest way to explain it is obviously the other way around. So if you think about the start, the dynamo at the top, the green, this is very creative. So it's all about intuition. It's about vision. It's about visible. It's about being able to see the future, drive things forward, be creative, come up with ideas, bringing things out of nowhere. What the dynamos do is all about creative. So if you've got things like a marketing creative or a designer or a product developer or a new product development company or somebody, anything that's doing with that start bit, creating things out of nothing, that would be your dynamos. They would be your marketers, your product designers, your graphic designers. They're all the creative, your interior designers, all these creative sort of people. Your blazes would be your sales. So your blazes would be your sales team. They would be people, your BDMs, your sales team, maybe some of your managers who are out there with the people, looking after people, making sales happen, connecting, telling stories, basically magnifying that power at the beginning. If you think about tempos, they're all about service. So project managers, customer service, property managers. Think about the emergency services. They basically turn up every day and just deal with whatever happens. They've got a skill set, but they're not phased. If you put a blaze or a dynamo in a tempo role, they'd be frustrated, they'd be annoyed, they'd be irritable, they'd be bored. Whereas a tempo is quite happy just being in the firing line. Give me stuff, I'll deal with it, I'll run through it. Very in the moment, great in the moment, but also can lack foresight. So tempos would be your project managers, your schedulers, your customer service. They're sort of running the business on a day-to-day basis, sort of from a service point of view, an outbound delivery point of view. And then steels would be your bookkeepers. So bookkeepers, finance, operation, data, compliance, solicitors, legislation, anything to do with the detail, the operations, the back office. And if you think about the sort of square again, at the top is head in the clouds, high frequency thinking. Down the bottom is ear to the ground, sensory, very connected. If you go out to the blazers, the extroverts, they're all about getting their energy from being with other people. Whereas you go the other way to the steels, they're very introverted, get more value from being on their own. And this also impacts how you communicate with people as well. How you communicate, how you train, how you lead, how you develop your team. So if you were going to work with someone like me, I would want to be seeing, because I'm a visionary, if you think about the way they learn, dynamos are visionary. So I want to see it. Show me a picture, show me a schedule, show me the model, show me the image. I'm very, very visual. Whereas a blaze, one of the sales teams, would want to talk about it. And they'd want to have, whereas I would want a diagram, they would want, say, a voice note or a Loom video or a conversation, a chat, a walk and talk. More sort of, they're more auditory. They want to hear it. Tempos are more kinesthetic. So they basically need to learn by doing. So they'll read it, they'll understand it, but they're really the sort of people saying, let me just log in, let me just figure out how to do it, and they'll learn on the job. They're kinesthetic. They're sensory. They'll figure it out with their hands as they go, in action sort of thing. And then steels are data, analytical. They want ops manuals, they want calculations, they want instruction manuals. Think about all the different family members and how they approach different things. You'll know somebody who wants to get the manual out. If you're building a wardrobe, get the manual out, get the screws out, lay them all in nice piles, figure out step one, that goes there, and they've got this all laid out, and they've got this big master plan. Other people, like dynamos, would probably just look at it, have a half a guess as to what they're doing, look at the image, that looks about right, that seems logical, they know 20% of the information, and they probably get 80% of the result. Blazers would just probably talk about it for a long time, ring the help desk up and say, I've I've looked at all these bits and there seems to be some bits missing. And they're like, well, have you read the instructions? Oh, no, there you go. It's there. They'd want to talk about it, get somebody to show them how to do it, talk them through it. And tempos would just figure it out as they go along. You know, they'd look at it, figure it out, put it together, learn actually on the job. So hopefully that gives you good sort of insight into how that works. Maybe just finishing off with some like pros and cons and some top tips. So pros and cons for each of those roles. Dynamos are really great for getting things started, but really rubbish at getting them finished. Really good with coming up with the idea, not so good at actually delivering the execution. Blazes are very enthusiastic, love to go out there meeting people, but can also be very optimistic. Can be a little bit disconnected from just overly optimistic. If you ask a sales team member how many sales they've made and they tell you 10, that probably means they've actually agreed 7 and 5 of them have actually paid. So the Steel would say, well, no, you've got 5 and there's a 14-day calling off period, whereas the Blaze would tell you sort of 10. Really good at getting out there, making connections, making things happen. Not fantastic at the back office. Tempos are really nice in the moment. Slow and steady wins the race. Can deal with whatever gets thrown at them. Very good at chaos management, crisis management, people management. They're just happy to get stuck in, but they can lack foresight. They can lack, they're not very dynamic, cannot be very dynamic thinkers. The way to do things is the way to do it. You know, not always a huge, because they're down sensory connected, ear to the ground. They don't have that high frequency, visionary, creative thinking that you get at the top. And then Steels, best thing is attention to detail, fact, numbers, accuracy, data. Consideration is they don't like being rushed, don't like being surprised, don't understand why people would not do what they say they're going to do, and can get frustrated with other people in that capacity. Everything is data, it's fact, and really great behind the scenes, but they're never going to be your public speakers, your networkers, your cold callers, your credit controllers. You know, there's a very clear organization as to where those jobs go in the team. So when you understand the perfect profile, this really will give you everything you need to build a world-class team. And the reality is you want all 4 bases covered. You want your creative, your dynamo, your leader. You want your blazes, your sales team going out there making things happen. You want your tempos running the business, giving world-class service, keeping the business going. And you want your steels to make sure you don't go to prison, your legislation's in place, your operations, your compliance, and most importantly, your finance are all running on rails. They're running to a point, and everything is exactly as it should be. A few top tips would be within the recruitment process, we use the Genius U test. So if you go to geniusu.com, I think it is, or .co.uk, there's a free test you can use. We actually use that in our recruitment process. The second is success and failure are very predictable. If you decide to try and go for someone, they're not quite the right profile, but you think they should be okay, 9.9 times out of 10, it never works out. So trust the process, trust the profile, and only go for the perfect person for the perfect profile in that position. And then finally would be start to advance your level of understanding and expertise and self-awareness and communication to understand that if you want to own world-class businesses and you want to have a world-class team, everybody needs to be better than everybody else at the thing they do. But it does mean they will talk different. They will communicate differently. They will have different expectations. They're what we call the bot-wats, the best of things and the worst of things. Every perfect profile has a bot-wat. And it's important not to judge, you know, when I was saying about your bookkeeper, they will make sure you make your 100 grand or your £1 million a year. But which is the best thing about them, because they're stuck into the detail. But the worst thing is they don't want to go networking. They don't want to go socializing. They don't want to be loud and noisy and banging the drum on the company WhatsApp group. You know, these are our best things. The best of things is my head is in the cloud. The worst of things is my head is in the clouds. The best of things and worst of things is the final thing. And Einstein said, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. So when you're looking for the perfect profile, appreciate this is the game. They stay in their lane. They smash it out of the park, but they're never going to be able to jump over and cover the bases of the others. So this has been Wealth Dynamics. This has been the perfect profile. This is the blueprint that we use for this 12-month cycle of Property Entrepreneur for every single business that we've bought, sold, invested in, or own. And if you want to move into that level where you have got a world-class team and a world-class business, you need all 4 perfect profiles in your team, and that will be the missing piece that takes you to the next level. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one.